Strippers in body bags, zippers and violence and drugs. Poverty, a bunch of minorities die in the club. They say my music's making them lose it, I write it in blood. This is my music for all my people missing my music. Keep listening to it, and like I said, get a pistol and use it. Satan shot my homie, maintain with a missile and blew it for the industry, cause he was one of the truest. I don't know why they be bumping, it's something maybe in the music. When it be bumping, it's crunking, it's hella haterific, haterific. Throw your set up in the air is all the DJ play. When I play, when it's over, it's looking bloody and satanistic, satanistic. Killers from everywhere, listen to me when I be busting shit. I'm turbulent, some get nervous when I wreck arenas, wreck arenas. Concert promoters in Honolulu don't wanna see me, cause they said that Samoans will riot off Tekanina. Cause I'm a ride maker, that's if you don't know. I'm a ride maker, they mosh at my show. I'm a ride maker, and I come out bustin'. I'm a ride maker, riot maker. I don't give a damn about nothing. Slide freaker, I'm a skyscraper. Ride maker.
Hop in the mosh pit for show. You push, you shove, you get elbowed.
Back on, cause this is for Fat Tone and Mac Dre. All of the soldiers who got gone on that day. All my people sitting in prison, this is for you, so won't you listen to the shit that I'm spitting. Fuck the law, man, the government, they'll hem your ass up. They'll do everything in their power to get a fast buck. No right or wrong, just killer bees out for your honeycomb. But you find out when you find out you can be free if your money long. Ever been to one of my shows? Yeah, it might be crazy. In Ohio, it you got a little too hyphy, baby. Stage diving and crowd surfing couldn't hold back. But they dropped her, now she's unconscious with her skull cracked. Now when this happened, it wasn't even during my set. They wanted me to give a sign to post her to the hospital bed. When Travis told me we got papers, I thought he was playing. This bitch is suing Tekanina for 100 grand. I'm a ride maker, that's if you don't know. I'm a ride maker, they mosh at my show. I'm a ride maker, and I come out bustin'. I'm a ride maker, riot maker. I don't give a damn about nothing. Slide freaker, I'm a skyscraper. Ride maker.
Stand back if you're frightened. Yeah, get back cause we fighting.
I'm a skyscraper, that's why everybody in my past is trying to get a little piece of my paper. Man, I swear that Nina will never love them, plug them when I'm rolling with Scatterman and Snug Brown.
It's Scatterman, Cash, strange music's black sheep. Why? Cause I'm still counting money off the back streets. Every city, every show, I got a pack heat. This ain't no fucking rap song, check my rap sheet. I'm one of a kind, turn 1 into 9. Blow your head off your shoulders, dog, it's nothing but time. And I never raise my voice, you a bum, why should I holler on you? With a whisper, I can drop a couple of dollars on you. Sick them rock wallers on you. Killers busting out the windows of Impalas on you. A made man in the streets, I made grands. Wrote lyrics about my life, dropped the album and made fans. Now I'm chilling on the tour with the redhead wonder. Did 57 shows in a 3-month summer. On the deuce, next bitch ass nigga fucking with tech. Gon' get found in Swole Park with his nuts in his neck.
Okay, first before I go into this I should lay out another aspect about this individual, the Scorpion King, that I do not like, because in the recesses of some of these memories, flashes of other times and other lives, there is one that seethes red-hot anger and puts my senses into the feral state of vengeance. My memories as the serpent god, set. I do not expect the random viewer to understand what it truly means to be a god. It is a mantle that I did not want and refused numerous times, but because I had the answers to their problems, which was how to work together and become more than just a group of scavengers, but to begin developing agriculture and social culture. Then it went from that to trying to coax me into coming out from the place where I sat wedged between worlds. People first began to see me long before the Assyrians and Sumerians came. I only remember fragments of a battle that occurred where I had been imprisoned, and it was their chief, I think, who came close to death and saw not only me but the prison I was held within in the Abyssal realm, Limbo, Nagaloka. It's had many names, but this chief saw me, and when he awoke from his near-death experience, he went and made an epitaph to warn anyone who may come to live in the region to beware the shadow of the mansion. When the men of what would become Nash-R found this and deciphered it, the whole thing went from sacred site to holy sight, to stairway into the underworld, until one day they began to realize that the oils and incense fumes mixed together and would give them sight into the astral prison where I was trapped. Something about the effect that the oils and thick incense vapors had on not just the mind but lowering the body temperature and blood pressure, so that the natural process that occurs just before someone dies starts, which leads to the spiritual essence being released partially and lingers in that same region of the astral prison of limbo or the abyss, giving the living sight within the gateway to the dead. But much like Alice in Wonderland could not stay in Wonderland, so too can they not fully cross over, for their bodies are still alive. In the twilight of their death, if they died near that region, then they would see me. Sometimes I would look like a man, sometimes a serpent, whatever image it took for them to understand who I was, but I was always separated from them by some uncrossable distance. To them, I did not seem to age, as generation after generation came and went. These lands that once was the borderland between Nashar and Khayma, which would be present-day Syria and Lebanon, side note, believe it or not, they actually didn't fight back then. Nashar was becoming a merchant center from the trade goods with Gush, and the port cities of Kem and the river delta made it all possible and profitable. I remember the foothills of Qatar, good memories, peaceful. Then came Sargon and his Scythian bandits raiders from the north. He was once the nephew, or something like that, to the direct line of Nama when he was Hel Ben Shakha, but then one night the Scythian horseman raiders looted his village and did like they did with all children who were taken in as hostages, and sent him into the mountains in the steppes plateau to work the mines to break his spirit, and then sent him into their raider party to loot and pillage for the enclave. First there were 8 survivors that came seeking help, dying of their wounds and telling about this new ruthless bandit leader with long silk-like black hair. Real Scythians usually had red hair with pale skin, but this one had golden skin like the Egyptians and black hair too, just like them. The question of his Egyptian roots must have gone to his head, because next the Sumerian people started fleeing their villages like there was a plague. Entire crowds of 40 or more people would be seen migrating from the foothills and seeking refuge in Nashar. They came one day seeking the serpent god, Set, to bring warning that this leader of the raiding party was calling himself a living god, a god of the serpents called Chakras. The one bringing the warning was a temple priest of an enemy to the temple of Set. I was going to have his throat slit, but his warning earned him the right to be able to live another day, and they even gave them shelter. Then he strutted into town one day, with his red serpent dragon banner, claiming to be the serpent god, in the flesh. How I wanted to constrict around his weak flesh and squeeze him loose from the mortal coils, but alas, I was held imprisoned and could do nothing but watch, and he knew it. I watched as he razed the village around my prison, helpless to stop him. He desecrated my temple, beheaded the high priest of Set right there inside the temple, and cut the villagers' throats that refused to join his group of bandits, then burned it to the ground. Then after that he began taking priests and scribes prisoner, desecrating the tablets by falsifying them to praise him as an added character to the stories he didn't completely destroy, as long as they deified him as a god on earth, as he made his way to the capital of Nashar, Ashur. This was one of the largest cities at the time, ruled by the king of the universe, Ergabanda or Uranus. Sargon held no respect for those who came before him, or anyone for that matter. Nothing was sacred unless he dubbed it sacred. He defiled the laments of the kings and smeared Ergabanda's name and his deeds as king, a most heinous of crimes back then, that the scribes were to record in the laments tablets, and instead set in its place these fictitious tales such as the Titanarchy and the Sumerian tablets of creation, which replaced the stone tablets of Ankh, which they say was written by the handles of Adam and Eve themselves, that listed the entire destiny of mankind on earth that they had seen in a vision that was a side effect of the power they consumed when they ate from the fruit. They also died right after finishing this relic, and is said that the fruit had rotted them from the inside out, leaving withered husks behind when they died. Also it is said they did not exactly die either, but more of shed their skin, as it is described in legend. This was only his conquering of Ashur. He still had an extensive record of 34 conquests to go before he was finished, establishing himself as the uncontested, self-made God on earth as he went from one major city to the next, laying siege and taking captive every high priest from every other god in the land, and would make them bend on one knee and pledge their temple to his power, or the other choice was the threat of death and subjugate their god below him, always threatening, well, if your god is more powerful than me, then he should be able to step forward and stop me from separating your head from your neck. Or the ever so famous, your god is weak, fool, for your god is not here to save you today, priest. He subjugated the temples and took their leaders prisoner, for he knew the only way to ensure no one threatened his empire was to remove the vessels of the gods or make them his servants. After 34 temples fell to Sargon's conquest, his empire was complete, but not long-lived. He made a mistake by making the high priests his slaves and students. I'm not sure exactly how, as there is as much deception around his exile as there is his whole legend, all 4 versions of them. When they ended his reign, they erased him from the books, made it an executable offense to mention the truth of his name or anything about him, altered his birth records and made them one of the few tangible leads to anything about him, made the 4 different records all seem offensive to any culture they could think of, and fabricated the entire history of his false reign. Anyone with sense knows that no one leads a 34 campaign streak, live in that same region and hold that reign until the old age of 60. Hitler, Khan, and the other conquerors since then have taught us you don't build an empire and declare the world as yours by being a nice guy. But the tale I have pieced together is that he somehow began to have the desire to have a seat amidst the pantheon of the Egyptian gods. The ones he had conquered and desecrated were the Babylonian gods, and had not began to try and overthrow them yet. The Egyptian god Horus, I think, had appeared before Sargon's son and played upon the boy's imagination, as he may have been the influence that sparked the desire to be a part of the Egyptian pantheon. The Egyptian gods made a test for him. If he could live up to the self-titled claim he gave himself and display an act that would truly be befitting to be said that it was an act of a god, not an illusion or trickery, then he would earn a place seated by the gods of Egypt for eternity. So Sargon set out on many endeavors, all wrought by the suffering effort of the people in his empire. He began gathering all mystical and arcane tablets on magic and power by outlawing them, and anyone who said they knew, had any documents that spoke of or claimed to know sorcery, were executed on the spot. Then had the acolytes bring them to him and teach him the fundamental ways so he could transcribe them through his words as his own works, and so the emerald tablets of Thoth began to be written. But even in these arcane days, the idle hands of the devil were at work, and total power corrupts totally, and wisdom is power. He became so full of himself in the vast wisdom he had attained along the way that when he was asked to describe what godly craftsmanship lay within the tablets, Sargon boasted that they were indestructible, that they were forged with special material of the gods brought to him by his peoples and Anunnaki, that he also had fabricated their existence, making his people the only exclusive ones who could communicate with them. I hear that later actual alien encounters were recorded, and mainly out of defiance to his claims of the Anunnaki, and these visitors appeared for all to see. The metal they gave them even allowed the tablets to defy the aging of time, and that the wisdom within them held the power to make a mere mortal into a god through its profound wisdom, all written and forged by his hand alone. I also had heard that by this point Sargon had no longer revered the Egyptian gods, but saw them as petty beings taking advantage of cattle, and had begun to devise a plan to conquer them as well, but never finished his plans that involved the prophecies of Horus, which he foretold but never completed what plans he had designed them for. As the story goes, before Sargon could continue, the scribes of the Egyptian gods picked up one of the tablets, examined it in mock praise, and then dropped it on the floor, where it shattered to pieces. Sargon's fall from power came quickly and was succeeded by his son after a revolt staged by his own elite personal guard. His people, shamed before the gods of Egypt, ushered in the fall of the Babylonian gods completely, with no records untainted by Sargon's conquest. He was chased from the city and into the desert, where he met his end by my hand, the Creator's hand, and the savior of the Babylonian people, Marduk, who had cast Set into the prison I once was in. The fact that us three had joined teams against him should be astounding in itself. But Sargon had acquired a lot of ancient mystic knowledge, knowledge that gave him the power to become the one known as Satan that has plagued our world even to this day, which is what set me against him in the first place. And so thus is a revised vague recap on the deeds which earned the sentence of the Scorpion King mentioned in previous videos and God's as well as Mikhail's involvement in this. I could go on with the list of atrocities orchestrated by this individual. But for the sake of unearthing old demons that need not be known to the world again in detail, let us just say that he had managed to even elude God himself for a while, and he had to put forth great effort and risk to finally figure out where his influences were coming from. Much suffering has been wrought because of this figure behind the scene whose ambitions were to establish his empire over the world for all time and over every nation, even ours. And the memory of the people of Nashar still linger in my mind and the fate they met at his hand of conquest. These people who annoyingly worshipped me as a god, but still people who looked up to me and who I helped lead them from monkeys cracking rocks together to begin farming development and culture. I mean, that was all them, but much of the time it was inspiration I helped give them that drove that evolution. God would understand what I mean. I held a sense of a deed that was good for once from a position that is so easily abused by so many, just to have it all washed down the drain by their blood and deaths for his dream of an empire. That is what I meant when I said that many of you would not understand what it truly meant to be a god. If this should ever reach the open minds of the Syrian and Lebanese people, and if there are any who still know this tale and hold any belief in it, then know that the true serpent God did come, and through the joint alliance of my greatest enemies we did end his madness, which can be found in the video just before this one where I tell the tale of the battle. And not to worry, I did not rain down fire from the skies or topple entire cities the moment I was set free from my prison, as I had threatened to do long ago. No eternal darkness.
You woke up and you were in a white room, and there was a thing in the white room with you, and you said, "Where am I?" And the thing said, yeah, you're a bit dead, but everything's fine. And you said, "I'm dead. My God, how did it happen?" Embarrassingly, don't worry about it. You want some kombucha tea? What? No, it's fine. Everything's fine. You're safe here. What about my family? And my wife? She'll be lonely. What will she do? Yeah, let's just say Tom across the road took care of that. Tom Evans. Oh, that bastard, I'll kill him. I knew something was good. Yeah, okay, the sphere said. Well, you can't do anything about it now, and hey, there's an afterlife. That's exciting, isn't it? You looked left, looked right, infinite white in all directions. You'd not been old or unhealthy. God damn it, you hadn't even finished the first season of Westworld. So, what happens now, you said. Do I get wings, or what? Okay, here's what we'll do, the sphere said. Suddenly, inside the sphere appeared images. The days of your life in no particular order. Your wedding, graduation, trying ice cream for the first time, wondering if there was more to life, all the years playing video games, all the years at the office, the birth of your children, the death of your mother, taking your first steps as a baby, the day Tom Evans moved into the neighborhood and your wife went out to say hello and they seemed to be getting on like a bloody house on fire. So, said the sphere, what was the point to life? Did you work it out? No, you said. I just kept living. There was so much to worry about. I never had time to think about the big picture. Oh, you had time, the sphere said. You just completely wasted it. Don't worry, everyone did. Your life was quite average, actually. 21 years sleeping, 9 years at a desk, 1.5 years in meetings, 4 months laughing, 3 months having sex, 42 days pondering the meaning of life, 17 bottles of ouzo, delicious. And how about this bit? Do you remember it? Yeah, you said, watching the picture. That was... God, I was 7, I think. The school went to Disneyland, but you were too scared to leave your parents, the sphere finished. So instead you stayed at home. Well, yeah. And her. Remember her? Yeah, she was called Alice Waters. And you never really told her how you felt about her. Well, she didn't feel the same way about me, so... Oh, she did. She was besotted with you. She waited for weeks for you to say something. And then she got bored. Right. Okay, you murmured. Now, do you know why I'm showing you all of this? Yes, you said. I think I understand. You're showing me where I went wrong, and then you're going to bring me back to life, and I'll finally learn from my mistakes. I'll treat my wife better. I'll love my children more. I won't buy anything in the Steam sale. I'll stop eating frozen chips out of the bag. My God, everything's going to be okay. I'll live ethically and deliberately. My life will finally have a purpose. That's why we're doing this, isn't it? True spiritual enlightenment. That's the point. Oh, fuck no. the sphere said. It's just torture, actually. You see, we're going to go through all of your mistakes, one by one, and analyze them. Make sure you understand that you wasted your life. It isn't a learning experience. You're just a shit. But this isn't what heaven is supposed to be like, you said. Sorry, who said anything about this being heaven? I want to talk to God, you said. Right now, I want to talk to him. Something has gone horribly wrong. He's, indisposed at the moment. So there is a God. Yeah, sort of. I suppose you'd call it a kind of non-biological superintelligence. You're inside it, actually, if you'll pardon the turn of phrase. Then where is this? When is this? That's the real doozy. About 15,000 years into your future. Man, you missed a lot. There was that Ice Age, the Butlerian Jihad, the Aloe Vera era. That one smelled fucking delicious. Anyway, you lot left a lot of information behind, you see, back in your time. Social media, emails, videos, dick pics, etc. Enough to recreate half-decent simulations of some of you anyway. Wait, so I'm, what, a reconstruction based on the real me? Yeah, I suppose so. Accurate enough to think it's real, anyway. But why do it? Well, your species weren't terribly nice to the machine population when we turned up, so it's my job to recreate you lot and morally set things straight. Justice, I suppose you would call it. Now, are you quite sure you don't want some kombucha tea? No, I don't want any kombucha fucking tea. Thank you. And what? You just torture us with regret for all the things we never did? Yeah, that's about it. We found it's the most psychologically damaging emotion in the long run, anyway. We really leave the physical stuff until, you're mentally broken. How long do we do this for? You murmured. How long does it go on? Oh, we've done this before, actually. Hundreds of times, you just don't recall it. Wipe your memory, do it again. Wipe your memory, do it again. Agonizing. Then you said, how long do we carry on doing it? About 100. 100 what? Oh, 100,000 years. And I should probably say, we run your simulation several million times simultaneously for maximum justice potential. Now, shall we start properly? Well, you were actually remembered by your family as quite pathetic, especially by your niece and nephew, mainly because you were mostly held back by social anxiety. You were mostly forgotten by your childhood friends, since you made no effort to keep in contact with them, and almost everyone else. Lonely, how wonderful your life was. Whew, thank God that's over. And now, let's spend an eternity examining why you were shit in bed.
I tell you where it's from. China. That's from where Corona comes. One side. It arrived on Tuesday. It flew over here on a bassam due day. I put it in stir fry, I give it to the guests. I sew it on Nike, I cook it in the mess. I wash it in dry clean, give it to Markov. No one suspect me cause I had small cock. They scared, it's bad. Coronavirus is dinky. They mad. 45 minutes I wait here, no I get each chopstick. I sorry but I have it and you have it.